When something goes wrong, it doesn't matter if it's in a marriage or in an aircraft. It's about showing compassion for the feelings of the people that are in front of you. Just because it's not your fault that the weather went bad or some part broke, it doesn't mean that you're not part of the experience of your passengers.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
Hey, pilot, what's up? It's Nick. It's Ready for Pushback solo show today. How's it going? Today is a good day for me. Got some friends coming over this weekend, so we have been cleaning the house, which is the worst, and doing all the family stuff. And I had a really fascinating conversation, disagreement, I guess, with Anna the other day. We were talking about laundry and when we should fold it and how we should get it done. And I had one idea, she had another idea, and we got in this weird, wasn't really an argument. It was just kind of this frustration back and forth. And after about 10 minutes, I was still frustrated. Anna came up to me and she said, "Listen, I'm sorry. I hear what you're saying. I know where you're coming from, and we'll just do whatever I wanted to do." And it wasn't because she was wrong. It was because she was deciding not to be frustrated and deciding to be the bigger person, which is always how it goes because she's always the better person. I'm always the worst. Well, it struck me and it made me think about this solo show that I wanted to do. And so here's the tie-in. There's a lot of times when you're flying, especially if you've got passengers. If you're a person with passengers and you're flying a lot, there are times when things won't go as planned. And you might get a maintenance delay, or you might have weather. Maybe whatever it is. Maybe it's something completely out of your control, and it just messes things up. And maybe you'll have to cancel a flight. Maybe you have to get a new aircraft. Maybe you take a really long delay. There are a lot of different complexities there. In those moments, you can take a couple paths here if you have passengers, and you can kind of ignore it and just say what's going on and just kind of dip out of there. Or you can be the bigger person and you can apologize and you can be present to those passengers, even though it's not your fault. It's not about the apology. It's about being honest. It's about humility. It's about having empathy and living a life of empathy. And in a lot of ways, it's just like being married. I want you to think about that, because when you're married, just like when you're flying, you are entrusted with the well-being of another person, or maybe many people in the flying side of that. You've made a commitment to help people, whether it's your spouse or your passengers, through the easy days and through the rough days. And you might not be the one that makes the rough day happen, but you're still responsible for how you respond to that. And that's what's most important, is how you respond when the chips are down, and how you respond in a time of crisis, and how you respond when somebody else is upset and shaking their head, and maybe you've ruined their day. Whatever the circumstances is, it doesn't matter if it was your fault or not. You are right there. You are representing that company, and you are in the uniform, and so it's your fault. And just like when you're at home, though, you can choose either way. You can totally ignore it and brush it off, or you can head it on straight up. You can head it off straight away and just make it happen for yourself. I bet there's somebody listening right now that has recently had an argument with their spouse, and they're seeing this and they're like, "Oh man, Nick, why are you even telling me this?" But it's because when something goes wrong, it doesn't matter if it's in a marriage or in an aircraft. You can't explain the situation and move on. That's not enough. It's about showing compassion for the feelings of the people that are in front of you, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your passengers. You need to show compassion. Just because it's not your fault that the weather went bad or some part broke, it doesn't mean that you're not part of the experience of your passengers and you're not part of the trauma that they're going through at that moment. They're anxious, they're disappointed, they're frustrated, they might be sad, they might be headed to say goodbye to their father who's going to die before the end of the day. And here you are as the person that can't get them where they want to go. It's your job to acknowledge that. It's your job to do the hard things, because apologizing is more than just admitting it's your fault, right? It's about saying, like, I see you and I understand what you're going through, and I'm going to be here with you. And that's important because you need to go through hard things together, whether it's with your crew, with your spouse, with your kids. It's about recognizing that while you might be in control of the aircraft, right, you're also responsible for that emotional atmosphere. It's really complex. One of the only jobs where you're responsible for something like that. In a marriage, sometimes someone needs you to be honest, and they need you to be humble, and they need you to show you care, not just about where you are, but where you're going together. All right. There's a lot of power in humility, and it's a really hard skill to learn. When you acknowledge to a passenger that there's some delay for some kind of issue, you're showing those passengers that you respect them and you respect their time and their feelings, and keeping them aware and keeping them informed is something you can do that is frustrating and hard to do, even when you don't have an update. In my company, I think it's like every 15 minutes, we make a PA to the passengers. And when I do it, I hop up, I get out of the front seat, I go into the cabin, I pick up the mic, and I have that conversation looking at them in the eye. It's really hard because I can see them rolling their eyes and I can see them being mad. I can hear the cursing, but I try to be humble about it. I try to understand their frustration. I try to take responsibility. Even if it's something I can't fix right away, I try to hear them and see them and know where they are. Because if I didn't, it's easy for me to fall into that trap that I'm like, hey, it's not my fault. Why should I apologize? That's what I did the other day with Anna when we're folding clothes. Not my fault. I'm not going to apologize for something. And then she did. And man, it crushed me. Like, it just like scales fell from my eyes, guys. Like, I could see clearly how I just acted like a child and acted irresponsible, and it was something stupid. It was something silly, but it wasn't worth it to Anna to be frustrated. And that's awesome. So she took that ownership where I should have. I should have been the leader, and I wasn't, because she stepped up and she was steady and she was there. And when things were going weird, she decided to be the rock. And that is awesome. So you guys be like Anna. Do it. Be the one who's responsible and responds decisively and with empathy and humility. Be grounded and listen and be there and be present. When you approach your passengers with that mindset, same thing when you approach your partner with that mindset, something powerful happens. You build trust in that person and those people. You create that connection. And those people will remember those details. In my company, when you fly a flight, you get an automatic email where you can do a survey, right? Everybody knows those surveys. Well, a lot of people take those surveys and they write things. And we have a portal where we can go read the things people write for the flights that you've flown. And I can't tell you how many times I've had all these negative responses about, 1 through 5, what happened. And it was like 1 was the worst, and they clicked it and they just were upset about the maintenance delay or the weather or the whatever. But a lot of times in there, where you can write something, a lot of times it says, Captain Nick really did a good job trying to communicate to us. We understood whatever was going on. And those are so impactful to me. I read every single one. It just seems important because then I read some things where people are frustrated, and it gives me opportunities to come up with ideas for solo shows and to correct and to readdress and readjust. And that's what you've got to do, because in aviation, things don't go according to plan every time. But jump in front of being present to people. Jump in front of apologizing. Don't worry if it's in your control or not. It's not about fixing the situation. It's about acknowledging those feelings for the people who are trusting you. So remember to be humble. Remember to be honest. Remember to show empathy. Those qualities, those will carry you far in your career. Lead with humility, because as you're going through this and you are on your way, the journey is way more important than that destination. Thanks for listening. It was great spending the time with you. Cheers.
This is important. Before you go, you need to know that 2024 is going to be unbelievably competitive in the world of pilot hiring, and you need to make sure that you separate yourself from the herd. The only way that you can guarantee that you'll land your dream job is by partnering with Spitfire Elite Interview Consulting. We are the only choice for application review and interview prep. We are the partners that you've been looking for from start to finish, and it's never too early to be part of our community. Just go over to my website, spitfireelite.com, and use the coupon code R4P to save yourself 10% on all of our services. Again, that's the letter R, the number 4, and the letter P to save 10%. So go out there and slay your interviews.